Okay, you're on.
Hello everybody and welcome back to this week's episode of Breaking Bread. This is episode 2 of the new season with me, Chinelo, and I'm here with a new guest this week. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Mayokun and I am a sophomore in the college studying neuroscience and minoring in African studies.
Okay, nice pair.
Thank you.
So let's jump right into it. Mayokun,
Yes, Judy.
I heard your roots are in Nigeria. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? Why did you and your parents move from Nigeria? What tribe are you a part of?
Okay, so this is going to go way back. So I immigrated when I was around 1 year old with my parents, and this is actually a really cool story, but my parents won the visa lottery that they give out in Nigeria. So because of that, my parents basically took that opportunity and brought us to the United States, myself and my older brother. And essentially, like for many immigrant families, you know, education, the success, the perfect American dream, that's what we were all like kind of achieving. And because of that, my parents made that decision to kind of uproot their life and like kind of leave everything behind. And I'm from the Yoruba tribe, so there's a lot of ethnic, I don't say like, I don't know, I don't want to say like confidence, but like very much like my parents hold themselves to kind of like a standard.
Right.
And I kind of see that ingrained in like everything that I do. They're very proud to be Nigerian, they're very proud to be from the Yoruba tribe, and that kind of, more as I got older, I more so resonate with that than I did as kind of a kid, because I would say like as a child, you know, like assimilating to the United States was kind of a lot, but I kind of knew that like I was doing all of this for a chance to like live a better life.
Oh, yeah. That's like heart-touching. That's so interesting about the visa lottery, because I don't think I knew that in Nigeria that they had one.
Yeah.
Do you know any more about that? Do you want to share?
I guess I could just tell you like it was just like my parents always like randomly tell me like a one-off story about things that they go through. So like honestly, my parents are a big mystery to me and like all the things that they've experienced. But all I can really say is that they were like, okay, we're gonna take this one chance and one opportunity, and they just never look back. So I guess from that, like, I think my perspective, at least being Nigerian, is a very like unique one, because I definitely see like both sides. So like someone who's like completely like assimilated to the United States, and then there's the other side of someone who's very like with strongly within their culture. And I would say like I'm a weird mixture, and not to be like one of those people where I see myself in both worlds, but I definitely do see that like a lot in myself in my everyday life.
I mean, that makes complete sense, because me included, my parents are from Nigeria, but I was not born there. So I'm like, which world is mine? You know what? All of them are ours.
Exactly.
Okay, that's very interesting. Actually, if you want to share a little bit more, you were talking about Nigerian pride and Yoruba pride, and how that's developed in you, especially as like the years have gone on.
Mm-hmm.
I can actually relate to that. I'm Igbo, but
Okay.
in the sense of you have like a greater sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
and where your self originated. So what do Yorubas deem as a successful life? What do Nigerians deem as a successful career, since that is what was driving your parents and driving you to come here and succeed? Like, what does succeeding look like?
Yeah, I would say like, for one, because my parents made so many sacrifices, I feel like they definitely ingrained that into me to like kind of carry on all the things that they wanted to do. Like one of the chance stories my parents were telling me, they're like, oh yeah, your dad wanted to be a lawyer and your mom wanted to be a gynecologist, and I was like, oh, that's like so cool.
Yeah.
But they didn't end up doing any of those things, because they were like, okay, well, we have kids and we want them to, you know, live the life that we can't live, like over here in Nigeria. And like having that sense of pride as I got older, like I was kind of like most kids in the like off comments that people would make, or just like kind of not feeling like you can relate to everybody in that sense. Like a lot of people would like share certain stories about certain things that they would watch or listen to, and certain like American cultural like items, and I just like did not know what they were talking about. And like still to this day, like very much like raised in a Nigerian household, like those are not things that really come up in like conversation. And I feel like my parents did like do the whole like assimilating thing, and they kind of like wanted that for me as well. And like as I got older and as I kind of like started to understand myself more, I was kind of like, oh, actually like don't want to do that. Like for one thing, when I first got my first passport, I was in like middle school or something. And one thing about me is my middle name is Naomi, but my family calls me Naomi because, you know, oh, it's an English name, like that whole thing.
Exactly.
And they thought like, okay, like since you kind of go by Naomi, like we should just legally change your name. And I was kind of like, oh, like probably if you had asked me that like a year prior, I would have been like, yes, finally, I have the opportunity to be like everybody else. But then like I had an experience with a teacher in my 8th grade year, and we were basically talking about the importance of names and cultures. And I was like, oh, like I don't really care what I'm called, like it doesn't really matter to me. And he was like, oh, it kind of does matter. And like that whole conversation kind of like changed my view on myself and like all the things that I like. And because of that, I like still go by Mayokun to this day, and like it's kind of interesting to go back home and like people call me Naomi, and then people call me Mayokun, and then people are like, oh, who is that?
Exactly.
Like when they like meet each other in cross.
But seriously, because it's not the same person. Even as you're saying, like if you had asked 7th grade you, that's Naomi.
Yeah.
8th grade you became the Mayokun we know today,
Yes.
and like that was a turning point for you.
Yeah.
And how did, like you touched on this, but how did you navigate the drastically liberal functions of society here in the U.S. with a more conservative ethnic background?
I think I was actually blessed with like liberal parents.
Oh.
I think that I got the lucky opportunity to have parents that were kind of like down with it in like a very like cringy way, but they are very much like supportive of all my decisions and all the things that I do. And I definitely think as I got older, it got better than it was when I was a kid, because they were very much like trying to figure out how to raise a child that is kind of like in between both world and the United States. But then on the other hand, they were kind of like, okay, well, we don't want to restrict you, and we see how much potential you have, and we see how driven you are, and we see how capable you are, so we can't hold you back in like any way. So because of that, they were kind of like, I mean, every once in a while there would be like a comment or two. Like I had bleach eyebrows for like an entire year, and my mom hated that. She was like, you look terrible. And I was like, no, like it's great. And then eventually near the end, she kind of warmed up to it, but then obviously I went back to black.
Right.
So like she doesn't make any more comments about it. But at that time, I was kind of like, oh, I'm just like discovering who I am. She was like okay with it. And I will say, like, having a bald father, like, if people have bald fathers, they know they kind of, like, you're, like, their golden child. So, like, I am definitely, like, one of my, I would say I'm my dad's favorite. But he'll, like, I know my dad would do anything for me. So, in that sense, like, as long as I'm happy, he's happy.
Yeah. You have such a strong sense of family connection. And I feel like that's deep-rooted in your sense of self and your sense of, like, Nigerianness.
Yeah. Once again, like, as I got older, it definitely, like, grew. Like, I think I was I was kind of like a weird kid. So, being, like, a weird kid, I was very, like, awkward around my family, and, like, I don't think I, like, matched their same social, like, kind of, like, vibe that they wanted to have. But I knew that, like, okay, well, this is who I am, and, like, they kind of, like, eventually just kind of were like, okay, well, she's just kind of weird. So, my parents, like, kind of, like, got over that. And because of that, like, new relationship we're like, basically forming now, I also am, like, pretty close to my family now.
So you think it's the shift in your parental relationship? Actually, you know what? You can't even pin it down to one thing. You think that, like, your stronger relationship, your reformed relationship with your parents has continued to your heightened sense of self, your Nigerian pride?
Yes, like, coming to college and like your entire sense of self is kind of like thrown up in the air.
It's up in the air,
like,
exactly.
I feel like I have this conversation every week where I'm like, I don't really know who I am, but there are some things I do know, and I know I'm Nigerian. My parents remind me of that every day. I know my parents love me because every time I call them about something, they're like, remember, we love you, and it's all gonna be okay. And I'm like, at least that's one thing going right for me.
Seriously though, that's like when you're getting back and you just took like a big exam for your major and you're like, do I even like this major? Is this school even meant for me? Is this career that I'm going to do even right for me? And then you just get somebody saying, we love you, and we trust you. That goes a long way, especially because literally dates back to the history of your life. They came here because they were taking a chance on you because they love and trust you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's nothing to just shrug off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so speaking of education, what was education like for Naomi versus Mark?
Okay.
Because we
Yeah.
touched on this shift, but what role has culture played in your education? And like growing up in the States alongside your classmates, particularly in that shift to high school when self-discipline and independence dictate people's actions, were there things that they did that your parents advised you against? Were there things that maybe your parents didn't even know about because they came from a different culture that you had to, you were first confronted with and you were like, okay, now what do I do from here?
Yeah, so my parents are very liberal, but one thing they don't play about is education at all. Like, I couldn't even make a joke about being like, I don't like school or I don't want to go to school because my parents would be like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not something that's funny or something you should take lightly or for granted. Because my parents, like, growing up, you know, low income, vaguely first generation, like, obviously they didn't get to live out their dreams. So for me, it's like, okay, well, you have the whole world in front of you and you don't want to make the most of it. So, like, if I was to ever make a comment like that, I think they would probably be, like, kind of hurt in the sense of, like, we did all this for you, and, like, now you're throwing it all away. So, like, it's kind of, like, it is endearing if you think about it the other way of, like, that's kind of, like, how they, like, motivate me to keep going because they're just, like, you're literally almost there. Like, you've been doing this for how many years now?
That is true.
And, like, it's, your finish line is, like, right there, and you just gotta make it through. And, like, in terms of education and, like, opportunities, like, I think my mom, I don't want to say she was a tiger mom, but my mom was very prevalent and active in my academic career. Like, my dad, he was, you know, he's like,
yeah, he's like,
but
go for it.
teacher meetings, emailing teachers, giving them gifts, making sure everybody liked me. Oh, she was there. She was there to be like, this is Mayokun, thank you for being our teacher for the semester. Like, thank you so much for teaching my daughter. Like, there were some years that probably were not my best, but my mom was like, you still gotta be nice. You still have to be kind. You still have to, like, be, like, someone they can, like, say good things about because that is what matters. Like, unfortunately, like, being Black and, like, my parents navigating that and, like, not just being Nigerian, it's, like, it was very different. Because they would, like, tell me stories and be like, yeah, like, people would, like, ignore you, or, like, they didn't see your potential, or they didn't want to invest in you, and she was like, I have to advocate for you, I have to go to your school, I have to be like, she needs to be in these classes, she needs to be doing this, she needs to, like, be excelling in all of her, you know, department, like, everything.
Don't cut you short.
Exactly. And my dad had this ritual every Friday, he would check my grades. So we'd come to the table, all of us would be sitting there, and he'd be like, okay, you first, and I'd go through, and I'd show him, and he's like, okay, and I had, like, A's, so, like, it was not, like, a concern for me, but, like, maybe with my siblings, he'd be like, what's going on, like, why are your grades slipping, and then he'd be like, Naomi, go talk to them, like, you need to go motivate them, you need to go tell them to do all these things, and, like, my little sister, she's, like, a sophomore now, and she's already thinking about college.
Seriously?
And I'm already like, girl,
Breathe.
I was like, breathe, like, I was waiting until, like, junior year before I even really was like, oh, I need to actually, like, crack down on this. Like, grades are good, but, like, I need to be doing more. And she's already kind of, like, doing all that. So my sister is honestly, like, the coolest person ever in my life.
Seriously?
She's way cooler than me. But, like, with education now in college and, like, all the things I want to do, like, I feel like my mom did play, like, a big motivating role, but it's like I had to want it for myself.
Right.
And I had to be that go-getter who did every single club, with every single extra activity, like, made my teachers like me, like, befriend them, like, make them, like, say all these amazing things about me, and essentially, like, be the ones who, like, motivated me and, like, rooted for me, like, up until now. Like, I do think, like, a big reason why I did get into college was because of my teachers.
Right.
Because they were the ones who were like, Mayokun is going to be someone one day, and, like, we have to see that through. And, like, not in, like, a cringy, like, she's gonna go, like, but, like, I would say I was, like, hot shit. Like, like, back in high school, and, like, I wanted to, like, make a difference, and, like, because of that, my parents always saw that, so they were always kind of, like, supportive, like, whether it was picking me up, dropping me off, like, late nights. Oh, there'd be so many nights I would fall asleep with my laptop, like, working on something, and my mom would, like, come and close it, and she'd, like, tuck me in, and she'd be like, are you okay? Or, like, then there'd be some nights if she was, like, really concerned, she'd just take my laptop.
She's like, yeah, go to
She's
sleep.
like, no, it's never that serious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now, like, because I've been so driven, now they're kind of like, oh, you need to, like, relax.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this opposite thing, because they're like, yes, you're going to get what you need, but, like, you can't, like, burn yourself out over it.
Yeah. It's this balance of how much pressure is too much pressure.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing of, like, anxiety is now, like, a big media topic.
Mm-hmm.
But a certain level of anxiety is what drives us to pursue our ambitions. It's, you test anxiety, you need some of it so that you can perform under pressure, you can do well. It's just, at what point does it become overbearing and hindering your performance? But it seems that your parents, and perhaps maybe it's because of popular culture, just seeping into their veins, but it seems that your parents did take a step back and they were like, okay, now that she is at this amazing school still doing great things, we should tell her she should take a break to breathe.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, like, breathing down your throat like some, I don't know. I feel like constantly, at least I've been told, like, there's the stereotype about Nigerian parents and that we're high achievers.
Oh, yeah.
And that, like, we have no social life, no friends, it's just work, work, work. But two things can be true. You can be a high achiever and you can have a sense of self and be at peace with, like, the decisions you're making. So I think that's really...
I completely agree. Like, in high school, that was definitely, like, that stereotype was me. Like, I was very much, like, always in my room, always working on something, always drafting something, always trying to come up with some new idea to, like, make myself stand out. And my parents were so proud. They were like, oh, she's doing great. Like, I only have great things to say about her, but that was probably, like, my first experience being, like, severely depressed.
See, exactly.
And, like, I never figured out how to relax.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been kind of, like, always hyper aware, hyper alert, and always on edge. And, like, my friends and, like, everybody's always like, Mike, you need to relax. Like, you need to calm down. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm just like, you guys, like, don't understand. Like, this is my life. Like, my parents, lovely parents, love them. But, like, they did instill that education is the most important thing that's ever going to, like, it's the most important thing in your life currently.
Right.
And, like, now, like, in college, college is hard.
College is hard.
So, like, that being, like, what defined me now was not, it's not the best.
I think a lot of people can relate to that without even having the cultural past that you have.
Yes.
But sorry, continue.
And, like, I feel like I only ever saw myself through, like, a lens that, like, is unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I feel like I always wanted to hold myself to a standard that I can't even personally reach.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, I was like, oh, the only way I'll be satisfied is if I reach it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's so far.
Exactly.
And I keep raising the bar.
Exactly. Seriously.
And
because I'm sure how many years ago the bar was this.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're here. So it's like, okay, next one,
Yeah.
next obstacle course.
And I feel like my story is, like, so similar to so many people. And it's like, I, like, was like, oh, I just need to get into a really good school. That's all I need. And I did. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, okay, on to the next. What am I going to do now?
Exactly. There's this anxiety. It's almost, would you even call it a fear on behalf of your parents? Because they instilled that education is the most important thing. But they instilled it based on their experience of not being able to pursue it to the extent to which they wanted.
Yeah.
At least I know, again, I'm speaking half anecdotally because I know sometimes I'm just sitting across from my parents and I'm like, if I don't provide for these people who raised me and sheltered me and raised me to be, like, somebody that could be so successful, like, if they end up in a nursing home, I failed.
Oh my God.
I failed.
Yeah. If I don't come home with $1 million paycheck and making sure everyone lives lavishly, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it correctly. And that's something I've been, like, working through to, like, understand, like, that's not my responsibility.
Exactly.
And to that extent, like, of course, like, when I, like, achieve all my dreams and I'm super successful, obviously Penn graduate, and I will be obviously giving back to my parents. Like, they got me here. But at this age of 19 years old, that's a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
It's so much pressure to wake up every day and being like, okay, well, if I don't do well in this next midterm exam, I'm not going to get into bachelor. If I don't get into bachelor, I'm not going to get a job. If I don't get a good job, then who am I?
Mm-hmm. It's this domino effect.
And it's like I'm putting all my value into external things.
Right.
And, like, these external things will never make me satisfied. Because even when I get to that job, I'm going to be like, oh, I need a promotion. oh, I need to go up in ranks, I need to be doing this, I mean, this needs to be my paycheck needs to come. I hope it's happy. But like that's not like what will make me happy. And like happiness obviously is like, always being happy is probably not a realistic goal, but like being content. And like I need to find a way to be content.
That is a realistic goal.
I'm living.
Yeah.
And be content with the fact that there are gonna be good days, there are gonna be bad days, but like that's just how it is, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree with that. I like the distinguishing between content and happy.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you can live a content life. So as we slowly wrap up, how have you developed your life and made it your own? And like, I know personally, even from looking at your outfit, you're a very fashion-driven, fashionista person. You love creativity. Your mind is always moving and looking to the next artistic thing. So what role has fashion and Black empowerment, Black female empowerment played in your character art of the protagonist of your life?
I think Black women are like amazing. I always say Black women, so I'm gonna say that. And like seeing the way Black women can like just shift and like be so many different things at once, and be completely different people, have so many different passions and interests. I was like, oh, I need to get like that. And like, I remember the pandemic came around, and I was like, okay, well, I really like clothes, I really like makeup, and like, I like all these things, but like, what more? Like, how can I make it my own, you know? And like, kind of since then, like, this is a really fun and weird fact about me, but I've never repeated an outfit since junior year of high school. And like, when I say like an outfit, I mean like an outfit. So like,
oh my gosh,
this is like, I won best dress. I will say I did win best dress in high school, which is kind of embarrassing to admit. But like,
I just need to say for the audience, she was already my fashion inspiration, and now I just learned that fact.
Yeah, like I can like go through my notes app and I can show you every single outfit I've ever put together, because I always write it down because I just have to have it documented and I don't do it again. But like, I feel like that is a way of like stretching my brain in a different way of like, how many ways can I wear this, and how many ways can I like put this outfit together, what can I change and what can I amplify, and like how can I make it my own. And like, I feel like the way you dress like says so much about you, and it like shows like who you are, and like it's the first thing people notice. And like, to me, it's like, that's something I want people to notice, like how cool I am, or how weird I can be, or like, I don't know, my real self. So yeah.
That's honestly the coolest thing I've ever heard. You should make it a scrapbook. A scrapbook of all of your outfits. Like, upgrade it from the notes app.
Yeah.
Because that is so impressive. Well, I look forward to more outfit recommendations from you.
Of course.
Love this outfit today.
Thank you.
Love the frames. Thank you. And thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
And bye.